Yes people, what is happening? Big Johns is back once again, and we of course have ourselves a brand new Fortnite video. Today's video is going to be 50% rant and 50% discussion. There are quite a few people in the Fortnite community currently, including myself I would say, who are slightly worried that the Fortnite storyline appears like it's falling apart. This seems to be for a variety of different reasons that we're going to be discussing in this video, and I'm going to be giving you my opinion on all of it. And with all of that information out of the way, then let's not waste any more time, let's jump into today's video and let's do this. Now I don't know about you guys, but in terms of my own opinion and a lot of other people's too, it seems like over the past few seasons the Fortnite storyline has somewhat taken a bit of a nosedive. And as I've just mentioned, this is likely due to a variety of reasons, but I want to touch on something very important first. So Donald Mustard and the guys who are heavily involved in the Fortnite storyline famously use a writing technique known as the mystery box. It's a way of storytelling where people essentially write themselves into a corner and then have to find a way out to explain what they've already told you. This way of telling a story can actually have really big positives, but it can also have massive negatives too. It allows you to essentially tell any story you like. You can come up with things off the top of your head, and if they fit and if they work really well, you can tell that story and it can be amazing. But it does come with some serious problems, as we're now starting to see. It can lead to certain issues such as aspects of the story needing to change because you can't explain what you've previously told people, retcons because you now need to change something in the storyline that you're not happy with, or possibly even continuity errors, which means that things just don't make sense. And it really does seem with Chapter 3 that we're starting to see some of these things come into play, and that is what is really putting people off the storyline because they just don't feel that it's as good as it used to be. One of the first major things that I want to touch on is the fact that Epic, Fortnite, Donald Mustard, people involved in the comics, whoever you want to say, has now come out and said that the Singularity and Paradigm are not the same person. This was clearly not originally the case. Singularity and Paradigm were 100% going to be the same person. That was why it was teased so many times, and that's what everybody believed. But then more recently, Fortnite have decided to change that, and they want the Singularity and Paradigm to be two separate people, and that is for a very obvious reason. This was originally described as a misdirect, as in getting you to think one thing, that they are the same people, but then it turns out that they're not, but that was quite clearly not the case. They've just changed their mind with this. And that is because it is quite clearly evident to anybody involved who looks at the Fortnite storyline that Brie Larson is voicing the Paradigm. We all noticed that during the Collision event, and at some point I would imagine they're going to release a brand new Paradigm skin where you can take off the helmet and it's going to be Brie Larson underneath, just like we had The Rock being the foundation. And of course, this wouldn't work if she looked like Singularity underneath the helmet. We've already seen Singularity's face, but you can't do that if it turns out it's going to be Brie Larson. Sure, you could just have her voice the character, but it's quite clear they want to do some kind of crossover with Brie Larson and actually have her face in the game, because evidently that will sell tons of skins. In terms of business, I totally understand it. They want to be able to make some money from selling a skin that looks like Brie Larson. That makes sense. But in terms of completely changing the Fortnite storyline, that is something that people quite clearly absolutely hate. We're also really starting to see some major issues in my eyes with the use of comics to tell stories in Fortnite, particularly when those same stories aren't really being told in-game. There's a massive proportion of the Fortnite community, I would say somewhere in the region of 80–90%, who aren't going to have a clue what's going on in the Fortnite storyline because you're not even really giving them that information in-game. You're telling it in a comic that you need to buy separately from Fortnite. And as cool as these comics are, they're really starting to bring up some major issues with the Fortnite storyline. They're changing things, they're going back on previous ideas that they had, or they're just introducing completely new stuff that the majority of people will never even see. Now this would be a lot less of a problem if you were able to look at these comics in-game, very much like they did with the Thor comic back in Chapter 2, Season 3. At the end, it was a massive teaser for the next season, and that worked really well. Or maybe even just have these comics purchasable in-game. You could do it for real money, you could do it for V-Bucks. At least it would give people the chance to actually access that storyline information without having to go out into the real world and buy the comics there. In terms of the information that the comics actually provide for people, it's fantastic. There's loads of background lore related to previous stuff, there's new information. Quite frankly, there's major parts of the story too, which in some ways is good, but when you don't actually have that information in the game as well, that to me is a massive problem. As we move on here, I will say that there's going to be some pretty big spoilers here for future comic episodes that we're going to be getting, so if you don't want to know that information, that's entirely up to you what you do now. But we recently got some more information surrounding the Ice King from Chapter 1, and it turns out that he wasn't even really supposed to be a villain. It was actually the prisoner who was the villain, and Ice King, I suppose, was technically the good guy. It really didn't feel like that at the time, and I get the feeling that maybe they've just totally changed their minds later down the line with this. I'd also say it's pretty clear to people as well that they didn't really have any plans for this whole Ice Moon thing and the Ice King being related to that originally. He was just somebody that turned up on the island, because let's face it, back in Chapter 1, the story storyline was nowhere near in depth, and this just seems like something they've come up with much later down the line. It's just more examples of how they're changing stuff because they want to be able to tell information and stories in these comics, which in some ways is good, but I feel you just can't go back on the lore that you've previously created. That kind of thing just annoys me. And in terms of more storyline information we're going to be getting in the very near future in the Fortnite Marvel Zero War comics, this may blow your mind, and massive spoilers ahead. According to leakers, 2 main Fortnite characters are going to be killed off in the Fortnite comics. It's not even going to happen on screen in the main game, it's going to be in the pages of the Fortnite Marvel comic. That is madness to me and an absolutely ridiculous decision. All I can say is fingers crossed that it's not going to be somebody like John Jones. If we see the end of John Jones's amazing lengthy storyline in a Fortnite comic and not in the real game, that is going to be a travesty. Well, quite frankly, even members of the Seven dying in the Fortnite comics would not be acceptable. They've been a major part of the storyline essentially since Fortnite began. You can't just kill those characters off screen. It's just stupid. I definitely feel like we're getting into rant territory here, but I've got to give you my proper opinion on this and not just sugarcoat it. Furthermore, it's already been confirmed that our first real proper appearance from Geno, the main villain of the entire Fortnite storyline, is going to be in a future comic. I just don't know what the decision-making process was there. Who thought that it was a good idea to showcase the main villain of Fortnite for the first time ever in that comic and not have it be in some kind of in-game cutscene? I'm not talking about the cutscene at the end of the Collision event where technically we saw him in the 0 point. This is a proper real-life version of Geno where we actually see what he looks like. And to be honest, majority of people already know what he looks like anyway, because once again it's happened with Geno just like it happened with the Origin and the Sisters. The skins and major characters have been revealed in part of Fortnite skin surveys. That's just crazy. It doesn't even really make any sense either, because I thought the whole point of Fortnite skin surveys were to send out loads of different concepts to people, find out what people liked, and then essentially add those to the game later. That's not going to happen with Geno. He's automatically coming to the game anyway. He's a huge character. He has been for a very long time. He's not just going to be removed from the game if people don't like the skin, is he? So why was he even in there in the first place? So they've essentially just managed to ruin the reveal of one of the most major Fortnite storyline characters ever. It seems like a complete mess to me. And I'll just add in another very small point as well. You probably remember the Collision event once we got very close to the 0 point. 2 characters actually fell into the 0 point, and believe it or not, these 2 characters are actually the Imagined and Geno himself. Some people managed to zoom in with a camera outside of the actual event itself, and in terms of what they showcased in-game, it was technically Gunnar and the Imagined, but in terms of the storyline lore, that is supposed to be Geno and the Imagined falling into the 0 point. Perhaps I missed something though, but I'm really not entirely sure why Geno was apparently there near the 0 point or on the Fortnite Island as part of the Collision event, particularly when we didn't even really see him properly. And it's starting to make me think that maybe Fortnite has just once again changed their minds and decided to try and shoehorn Geno into the storyline in this way and say that he related to the Collision event itself. Could be completely wrong there, it just seems a little bit dodgy in my eyes. And when you combine all of the stuff that I've previously spoken about in this video with the fact that there is pretty much no story in Season 3, it's either being told by quest lines or through the comics outside of the game, I just don't really consider that to be acceptable. And also by the looks of things, it seems like the major cliffhanger from the end of the Collision event where the Foundation and Jones dive into the 0 point chasing after Geno is not even going to be explained in game, it's once again going to be explained in a comic. Probably up there with the biggest cliffhangers in Fortnite of all time, and you're not even going to explain what happened in the game to the people that watch the live event. That is absolute madness. All of the things that I've spoken about really are just leading me to believe that they don't seem to have a clue what they're doing with the Fortnite storyline and they just make it up as they go along, which is not a good state to be in. All I'm going to say is I've got my fingers 100% crossed that once we arrive in Fortnite Season 4, things really do start to change. We see so much more Fortnite storyline stuff happening in-game, not in comics as well. If you want to do both together, then absolutely fine, but don't just have it in comics and not in-game. And I'm hoping they can just really turn things around with the storyline, because it seems like so many people in the community are just down bad on the Fortnite storyline currently, and none of us wants that to be the case. And that is pretty much everything I've got for you for today, people. That is pretty much my opinion currently on the Fortnite storyline. Let me know what you think about it down below in the comment section, and that is going to be everything for today's video. Peace out.